Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm your host, Raven Geeks, and today we're going to be ranking characters based off of if they're hardworking, if they're talented, if they're both, or if they're neither. Now, this tier list is comprised of all of these magnificent characters right down here, and the characters that have been placed in Will Not Ranked are characters that we haven't seen them in terms of any sort of performance. So characters that we haven't seen, such as this starry-eyed boy right here, we have not seen him play in a match, so therefore we cannot judge on the fact of if he's talented or if he's hardworking. And by the way, this Rin being here doesn't mean anything because we have another Rin down here. There's just two Rins, so just ignore that. So, if you guys are excited for this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as all support on this channel is greatly appreciated. And I also have a Discord in which you can join, which I'll leave a link to in the description. Alright, with that out of the way, we can get started with the list. So what constitutes as hardworking and what constitutes as talented? Well, talent is really just a natural skill, a natural element to be able to be good at the game, and hardworking is what people, dedicate themselves towards to get better. So, for example, Igagure, as we all know, doesn't really have talent in the areas in which we expect. He has talent in drawing fouls, but he had to build himself up to be that way. He had to put in tremendous hard work in order to get there. And he is a generalized, hardworking character. He has nothing else to him, unfortunately. Naruhaya, for what carried him to the second selection, I believe he was just hard work, but then again, now that we see the results of the fact that he lost the second selection as soon as he had to try and be independent on his own, I believe he's neither. His off-the-ball movements have been, adapted towards Isagi's main arsenal in terms of his skills, and now Naruhaya is seemingly like an inferior version towards Isagi's off-the-ball movements and also other characters like Rin. So unfortunately, he will go in the neither slot. Kuon is straight up talent purely because of his height. He has a height advantage, and therefore with that he is able to produce good aerial maneuvers and goals and whatever. To know that he got kicked out of the second selection was proof that he didn't put enough hard work in, especially in the first selection when he pretty much abandoned his teammates in order to try and get through even further. The talent carried him in the first selection, but I also say talent-wise as his negotiations would pull the case. If he didn't negotiate, he would have never probably gotten a goal at all. I forgot this character's name, but I'm going to put him in neither. Ilmon, I believe, as a goalkeeper, from what we saw him playing as a goalkeeper, he was undeserving to be kicked down the second selection, unfortunately, because man dedicated himself to play goalie during the entire first selection and then got booted off. Oh, my boy. I will put him in hard work purely because he had to adapt to a completely different position that he's never played before. He hard worked himself into a semi-decent goalkeeper where he can actually be able to stop shots from Reo, which Reo is no slouch when it comes to striking. He's a good shooter. Kira, I believe, in terms of what we saw, we haven't seen much, but we can probably tell that Kira's actually leaning towards more talent than hard work, because I believe he was letting his talent carry him when coming to Blue Lock, didn't expect him to be eliminated. It just showed Isagi put in the hard work to beat his raw talent in terms of being a good player. So therefore, it's a performance issue, or skill issue as some may say. Now we have Burū, and this is going to be our first both category. I believe he has immense talent, but is also really hardworking. Is he more hardworking? Yes, but the fact is he does have extreme levels of talent because of his physique and also his shooting range. He could have hard worked himself to where he can actually shoot from that range. He's also improved upon his shooting range since the first selection, but there's no doubt in my mind that he has an essence of talent in which incorporates itself into his hard work. He has a strict training regime in which we saw in the second selection when Isagi and Nagi teamed up with him. So yeah, that's just proof that he is a hard worker. Nico, when everyone on his team was playing for themselves after their team was confirmed to lose and be eliminated, he carried himself to be the top goal scorer of his team. I'm going to put Nico in hard work, and he deserves respect for that. This dude, he would be all talent, but then again, he got eliminated after he had an advantage. I'm going to give him neither. We have the Wanama Bros, and I believe to categorize these two as a duo would be the way I would do it in terms of they have great amounts of talent when it comes to being factored in as a duo. But since these are individual characters, I'm going to put both of them in neither, because without each other, they're useless. Next up, we have Ryu, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen Ryu like properly train before, but he definitely has immense amounts of talent because of his height, his stature. It's been said on multiple occasions, oh, his legs should be outlawed, says Shigure, when Ryu's able to reach the ball from so high up and with such length. And Ryu is like 6'4". I consider that talent. It's just natural genetics. Like, when you're given something upon natural genetics, that is just talent. But then, you would have less hard work to put in order to get to the situation that you're in. Tokimitsu, I believe, is also talent, but this could be up for debate. I'm not sure how he got his gains. If those are natural, then yeah, that's talent. But if he had to work for that physique, that's definitely hard work. I think I'll put him in hard work and believe that he had to work to get that physique. Besides that, I am not sure. I am not sure of this character. Luna, I mean, for what it's worth, we haven't seen much of him, but we've seen him play one match. I feel like most professional level players are like a mix of hard work and talent, so I will put him in both. Same with Adam Blake. Same with Dada Silva. Both of these two are like genetically gifted. They're muscle freaks and they have, extreme power, stuff like that. They've definitely hard worked themselves towards the positions that they're currently in. Same with this guy, I forgot his name, but basically all of them are hard workers because they managed to get to the World Cup level. That's why they're going to all be in both. Shido, I don't think I have to say much about him. He is much more talent than hard work, because since the U20 match, he has done nothing to really improve much or prove himself to be a competent player on his own, because he has once again got a midfielder to feed him passes, to feed him situations where he could score, and he's a great goal scorer, only if he gets passes. Yes, he's an overrated player, but I do like him as a character. And I believe his goals are impressive, but he needs he needs someone to feed him passes in order for him to capitalize on his full potential. Karasu, for me, with the showcase of how much he's done, unfortunately he is much more talent than hard work, and I don't think is at all close to being both, because Karasu was genuinely carried by his stronger abilities throughout the first, second, and third selection. Same with Atoya. Both those characters have such good abilities for the early stages of the game. It's like Pokemon. You have really good Pokemon at the beginning of the game, but when you get to late game, they become, sort of useless by comparison. They fall off because their stats can't keep up with the Pokemon that you have to face, like pseudo-legendaries and basically just fully evolved stronger Pokemon. These guys are basically like the Watchogs, the Watchogs of BLUELOCK, being able to be good early game with Super Fang, but when you get to late game, it becomes less useful because there's so many Pokemon with higher stat totals than Watchog. I don't know why I compared them to Watchog when I could literally pick any other Pokemon. Next up, we have Yukimiya, and considering the fact that he has vision difficulties, I'm believing him to be much more hardworking. It's a case in which I'll come to, Chigiri later, discussing his injury, but when people have things in which hold them back, I can't really consider the fact that they are more talented. Because as much as Yukimiya is gifted in street dribbling, he had to work harder to get to the position that he is currently in because of the fact that he has vision problems. And I wouldn't think having vision problems wouldn't be a hindrance. It's going to be a hindrance because he's going to be struggling to keep his eyes on the ball and dribble and focus constantly. It sounds like a pain in the ass. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in more hardworking. Hiyori, I believe Hiyori, in terms of recently, has been more both than talented, because I feel like his talent really carried him. He didn't feel the motivation and commitment towards playing football because he just wanted a reason to stop doing it because of his, this whole backstory. He wanted a reason to just stop and quit. But recently, because now Isagi's given him that motivation and inspiration, he's much more both. And I'm glad to see Hiyori on the saddle, being able to showcase his abilities. That's just my opinion. Nanase, for me, definitely hardworking. As much as he's gifted in ambidextrous abilities, he didn't discover his ambidextrous legs, or the fact that he has both his legs as dominant legs, until Rin pointed it out. So therefore, he's been carrying himself without realizing the fact that he has both of his dominant legs, or two dominant legs, as for him to capitalize on situations where he can pass with both legs or shoot with both legs. He didn't know that he could just do that. He's been putting in the hard work to get to this spot that he's currently in, to where he can actually link up with Rin. And for that reason, I put him in hard work. I would put him in both, but the reason I put him in hard work primarily is because of the fact that he carried himself up until the NEL arc and then realized the fact that he's ambidextrous. Kiora, talent. To know that he got lucky upon birth, he was basically like a miracle child, and now to lead up to him currently, made one ridiculous pass to Kaiser, and since then, and even before then, he's done not much. He lost to Nagi's team, as we know. I can't say that he's hard work, or both. I purely think he's more talent than both of them. Corona's hard work is the reason why he's able to keep up with Isagi. He's trained himself and conditioned himself to be able to keep up with Metavision Isagi, and I find that to be very inspiring. He's said on multiple occasions that it's really hard to keep up with Metavision Isagi. And yes, short turns is immense talent, but I'm pretty sure that's his only weapon in which has been like properly utilized, because he may have other weapons, but short turns is the reason why he's so good to link up with in terms of passing. So for that reason, I believe he will primarily go in hard work. Hirojima, I don't know how to say his name, but I'll tell you what, he's like Nagi in terms of like trapping. I'm going to put him in talent because we haven't seen much of him, and it's clear that his like talent carried him to a position that he's currently in. The fact that he lost both of his like first two teammates is telling the fact that he was definitely carried by his talent instead of his hard work. Because first he lost Santetsu to Nagi, and then lost Nico to another team. Next up, we have Tongue Snake Man. I forgot his name. We haven't seen much of him in the episode Nagi manga in terms of like showcasing his abilities, so I'm going to put him in neither for now. So before you guys come on me to say like, oh no, he's actually hardworking or talented, like in the future. The current chapter that we're on, we haven't seen much of him. This was said to be like one of the tallest players within BLUELOCK. He's one of the tallest players, therefore that's pure talent right there. Sei Itoshi, I'm going to be honest, the fact that he was able to basically admit the fact that he is best fit as a midfielder, put his ego aside to say like, I won't be the world's best striker, means that he adapted to a completely different position through determination and hard work. Yes, he has natural talent, that is obviously the case, but for me, I'm going to put him in both. Oliver IQ, you don't get the title as like really good defender, like team captain level defender, if you're not a hard worker. Oliver IQ to me is a hard worker. I mean, he also had to, work hard in order to get his current Metavision abilities. Sendo, I believe, is also hard work. I don't think the man does have much talent as a striker. Yeah, you see the hard work and commitment that he puts in, you can realize the fact he's blocking shots as if he was a really good defender. He got a goal recently against Manshine City. Yeah, he is a good player. I believe most of the U20 lot are like hard workers over talent. Noah is like unanimously known as like one of the hardest workers, and people probably want to say like, oh, his ambidextrous abilities carried him to become the best striker in the world. Well, he also has like a near perfect, if not perfect physique. Yeah, that is incredible. The fact that he's able to like compensate for, his current abilities with an amazing physique is what pushes him to the next level. I believe he is both. Michael Kaiser, judging by like the fact that he has two vision types, he has Metavision and Predator's Eye, and judging by the fact he utilized that instead of like ever worrying about developing on his skills to beat Isagi until Isagi beat him in the Ubers game, I feel like that's telling. Recently, he's become much more hardworking because he developed a whole new Kaiser Impact variant in order to try and beat Isagi, but it only works in very specific situations. He hasn't shown as much hard work as talent, but I'm going to put him in both. Just to say, like, he's definitely developed the ability of Metavision and learned to utilize that, and now he's showing much more hard work in learning how to adapt to Rin and Isagi, rather than just purely relying on his current abilities. He's basically starting from scratch. He's starting from zero and working his way back up, which is proof that he is a hard worker when push comes to shove. Next up we have Ness, and I believe Ness is definitely most talent rather than hard work, purely because I think he was already gifted in the passing abilities in which he has, and he has not improved at all, I believe, from like the first match. His passing patterns with Kaiser are predictable and can easily be countered, and I believe the only impressive thing he's done as of recently was being able to press Rin in to get the ball. We have Grim, and I believe, okay, so for the Kaiser lackeys, I believe that they're just mostly talent. Their talent is what carries Kaiser to the point that he's got at. Kaiser is much more hardworking now, and I think he's much more hardworking overall, to where it makes sense why he's better than his lackeys. Lavinio. I believe most masters are going to be both in comparison to just being one or the other, but I also argue the fact that dribbling is very much a talent-worthy trait. So I'm going to say, and maybe controversially, that Lavinio is more talented than hardworking. I believe his dribbling is probably amongst the best in the world because he has been placed as a master. So therefore, because of my opinion of the fact that talent definitely corresponds to dribbling, it definitely has a sort of correlation to one another, that I believe Lavinio is much more of a talent-based player than hard work. Chris Prince, because of his physique and because of his ability to be able to study other players and figure out their training regimens and what specifically to target in order to make him better, he's definitely both. I believe he's one of the hardest working masters. Also, BLUELOCK developers and animators and writers, if you're watching this, allow me to voice act either Chris Prince or Agi. Please. I'm amazing, I promise. It's because I'm British and it could just work. I promise. Anyway, Agi. I believe Agi's also both. The fact that he's pretty much the same as Chris Prince in studying and learning how to develop people's talents, especially on Manshine with Nagi, Reo, and Chigiri. Loki and Snuffy are weird ones because I believe Snuffy is definitely hardworking. No. That's not even up for debate. Snuffy's much more hardworking, because he learned martial arts and also learned, of course, all these positionings and whatever. To be considered the best overall player in the world is definitely a hard-working status. But Loki, I'm not sure. I want to say talent. I believe his natural gift and speed is probably what carried him there, but I don't want to go against the fact that, I've been saying all masters are pretty much hardworking, besides, well, Lavinia. I'm going to say Loki's both, because we've yet to be proven otherwise. We've yet to be proven the fact that his abilities is purely just talent, or maybe he's just worked his way up to the point he's at, to where his talent has now become much more of a hard-working trait. You can start from 0 and work your way up to 100 with just enough training. We are now on to Don Lorenzo. I love Don Lorenzo. I believe he's worked his way up to be one of my favorite characters in the series. To know that he probably started at a older age, he probably started closer to an adult playing football and now got to his, current level. Because Kaiser started as a kid, but Don Lorenzo pretty much started playing football at the age close to being an adult. So therefore, I believe he's both. He's both hardworking and talented. The fact that he's able to become New Gen 11 level with his few years of time commitment, he is definitely both hardworking and talented. Zantetsu, believing the fact that he hasn't done much in his current game, and the fact that I believe his talent is definitely much more of a carry than I thought it was. Reo, I believe Team V in the first selection were just full of talent junkies. Zantetsu, Reo, and Nagi were definitely all talent-based, more so talent-based rather than anything else. But Reo put in the commitment and hard work to be able to develop his Charmeleon style of defense and offense, and also the fact that he's worked hard in order to try and prove himself to Nagi. But I'm going to put him in both. Nagi, I believe, is much more talent than hardworking. The one time he put in hard work and got his goal, he immediately started to slump again. His stocks went down, his stocks went downwards, and for that reason, yeah, he's much more of a talented player than hardworking. Charles, I believe, is talent purely because he's letting his talent to try and carry him to a more inspiration-based and more exciting scenario where he can assist Shido, because Shido is the person that excites him because he was the first person to just reach his full-blown passes when he was just getting bored. So for that reason, I believe Charles is more talented. We have not really seen hard work because he's being childish and immature to not try and assist Rin. Kodagame, I believe from the fact that he was able to work himself out of the wild card, he is definitely much more hardworking, and I don't think that is really up for debate. Gargamaru, his flexibility is actually a really good talent, and of course his physique. It's also being able to develop stuff off of that, which is also like pretty much hardworking. And now he's been put in a position which he's never played before, which is goalkeeper. But he's able to utilize his talent the majority of the time in order to get the job done. I believe there is more lenience towards him being a talent-based character rather than both, but he has worked his way up. I will put him in both. I'll put Gotomaru in both, by the fact that he has worked his way up to be a goalkeeper for Bastard Munchen, and it's consistently been a goalkeeper since Manshine, a reliable goalkeeper at that as well. Raichi, I believe Raichi had no talent outside of just being like incredibly gifted with stamina, but I feel like him being able to get onto that level of stamina is purely hard work based. This is going to be where controversy seeps in. Chigiri, for me, is hard work. I think he's majority hard work. Now, let me explain myself. I had this talk with Ero literally earlier today. So the day that I'm recording this, I had a talk with Ero earlier today discussing the fact of like, oh yeah, Chigiri is definitely talented in his speed, but his injury is what restricted him. And much like how Yukimiya has this problem with his vision, Chigiri had his problem with his leg. That was what was restricting him in order to advance any further. So he had to adapt to the fact that he had an injury and make sure that it never happened again. He had to work his way up. He had to work up his self-confidence, his mentality, but also like his physicality, and he's able to be on Manshine City as the top goal scorer because he put in the hard work. He put in the hard work to get back into the position of being a striker. After his leg injury and after all that trauma, he is able to get back on top through his hard work and determination. His talent is his speed, but he's developed off that. He's become better because of the fact that he's learned that he's not invincible, and the fact that he just had a humbling because of his injury. If he kept riding off the high of his talent, then he would have had a massive humbling session later on in the series. But since he already had a humble session because of his injury, he's able to be all pure hard work and realize the fact that he is not invincible. He needs to put in the effort to be just as good as these top players. He needs to put in even more effort than some of these players in order to be better than them. And of course, he worked himself to be an independent striker, who doesn't rely on other people, who doesn't pass to other people. He wants to be his own goal scorer. That's what he said to Chris Prince. And that is giving me the impression of saying, like, yeah, he's majority hard work in comparison. Bachelor, for me, in terms of like recently, he's definitely shown a lot more hard work, but I'm leaning towards Bachelor being much more talented than hardworking. Reason being is because I've once again said dribbling is a talent-based skill, and the fact that he's able to carry himself in the first and second selection, pretty much being a really good player with amazing dribbling abilities, he's able to surpass the U20 players through his, dribbling abilities alone as well. Yes, he's put in the hard work in order to evolve and adapt towards not having a monster or maybe utilizing his monster. My main point of focus is the fact that he's basically built himself up from, he started off at a pretty high number and he's gone higher, but he's pushing the levels of his talent with hard work, but he has not really done anything to show that he had to work hard towards his goals, because he's just naturally gifted in his dribbling. Now we're on to Isagi and Rin. To end off this tier list, I will say that both these guys are definitely both. But here's the thing. People are going to say that Isagi is hard work in comparison, but I believe that Isagi's talents were just undiscovered. Take everything in the series, for example. It's from an average Joe to realizing the fact that he had some utilization as a striker. He didn't know what his weapons was going into BLUELOCK, but he only had to realize them through his hard work, and because of his hard work, he was able to discover his talents. I would say he's always more hardworking than talented. However, He had the spatial awareness, he has his direct shot, he has his metavision now, he has his ambidextrity, he has his off-the-ball movements, he was able to tap into the flow through advice that he was able to receive. Yes, his physicality is completely average, if not below average, because his specs is like quite down there besides like his spatial awareness, but now he's discovered the fact that he has all of these abilities in which was untapped because he never came to Blue Lock. He had talents, he just never knew how to access them. And then when it comes to Rin, we should all expect him to be very talented because he's the brother of Sei, but not only that, of course he's talented. He was able to tap into flow as a kid. It was openly said the fact that he was able to tap into flow as a kid, and now that he's in Blue Lock, he was completely demolishing people in the second selection. He was completely demolishing them. Who knows what he was doing in the first selection? We all know that he was a really good player in the second selection, but God, he would have been completely annihilating people in the first selection. And that is the list. I hope you all really enjoyed this video. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, as I said at the beginning, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I don't plan on doing tier lists much, but whenever the topic interests me, I just say, you know what, I should do it. I should do it because I feel like this is not a topic in which people, tackle much. They may do it in like a full-scale video, but they wouldn't talk about all of the characters. They may only talk about a few. But I get it all done in one video for you guys because you know what? You guys deserve that from me. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video, and until next time, peace.